got the salt going on here. That's right. Some people got crack rocks. We got salt rocks. I just remember what I was gonna say in terms of like the horror stuff, horror movies. People a lot of times will forget that in making art, and making creativity, whether you're writing or you're drawing or you're making music or you're making a horror film. I mean, a lot of stuff that happens, particularly if you don't have a lot of money, right, is you're sort of working with the spaces that you have. For example, in the filmmaking, the dabbling I've done in horror filmmaking, it's an adage: you shoot around your locations. Okay, first come up with your location, a place that you won't be bothered with, that you won't get in trouble being in, and then you build your story around that. A lot of stuff we see in films, even stuff we don't like or stuff we think is stupid, is just like the limitations of what the film crew or whatever is working with, and the story will come out of that. And a lot of times the limitations actually work for it. Of course, horror as a genre, it already has an appeal in and of itself, right? And one of those appeals, in terms of like the atmosphere, is the use of spaces. And you wanted to talk about horror spaces. Obviously, confining places are very horror-like, and the opposite, vast, sublime, the sublime, as Edmund Burke said. Aren't I smart? Like vast forests, the cosmos, the vast oceans. They also have a horror to it, of wide open spaces. Of course, the nighttime always evokes horror more because you can't see things, because it's mysterious, because it hides, things that can get you, and the imagination then will take what the senses can't see. The imagination will then have to make up for, and there's a lot of things that come out of that imagination that are not pleasant. So anyway, in terms of horror spaces, you were talking about the idea, talking about places that we've been that give us a sense of dread, and then go from there. I think there's some other things you wanted to discuss in relation to that, but give some examples of what you mean.
You sidetracked me with something you said there, that you'll have confined spaces that are horrific, and then you'll have these vast spaces that are horrific. So if you contrast Moby Dick, it's a lot of things, but it's also a horror story.
It is.
It's based on the wrecking of this ship, the Exeter, by this big sperm whale. And one of the most horrific things about it to him was how broad and lonely the space was, and how deep and unknown the space was that the monster came up out of. The flip side of that would be what happened to Giovanni Verrazano.
Oh.
When him and his brother were going to the island of Dominica, and it's a rough sea. It's actually a confined shore, where it's hard to even get the boat into shore, and once you get it there, it's hard to get it out. So the sea is kind of pushing you into this space where you've got this mountainous island and this narrow beach. And Giovanni goes up there to make friends with these people, wades through the surf, and the Caribs kill him and start dismembering him and eating him, while the surf is pushing his brother and the sailors in the boat towards that.
Oh man!
So
I would have loaded my gun.
His brother. It takes so long for the sailors to row him out of there that his brothers basically got the opportunity of seeing him being completely consumed.
Yeah, wow.
Which is
where the Caribs now? They got theirs, huh?
Well, I know a guy named Jomo who actually dated a Carib witch.
Nice. Oh no.
Back in 1980s.
Oh man, can you
He
imagine?
said he ended up escaping from her, but
I was about to say
she wasn't holding him prisoner. She was very pleasing to be with, but he was afraid that she was working a spell on him, and he'd wake up without some parts one day.
Yeah.
So he literally tricked her, said he was going to fly out of there. He was a bush pilot and get something for her, and he never went back to that island. He was very afraid of that Caribbean.
Yeah, I would be too.
Okay.
So, I don't care how thick black hair, how sexy it was. Anyway.
So that big horrible city you grow up in, can you think of a horror space?
The ironic thing is that to me, that was my home. So like what was like a horrible place to a lot of people, that was like where I would lay my head, wake up, look forward to doing things. I know, it's amazing
but
that
you told me about the subway, about like the gutters, like you kids were wondering if there's a way, if you got pushed down in there, you could survive.
Well, like when the train would come, I remember like it's like always like, oh, here comes the train. Right? And the first, and this is something, if you're a native, I don't know about these people now, but like it was always like, imagine if you got thrown on the train or if you fell onto the tracks. And it used to be like, I always thought, well, you would run under the platform, but apparently there's like these connector switches that are kind of like spikes that will not give you enough room to not still get crushed partly by the train, and apparently will impale you. So your only hope is to go in the middle of the tracks under the thing. That's what I've been told. I don't know from experience, because my stupid ass wouldn't be anywhere near the edge of the platform when the train would come in. I mean, that was like common sense. Because even in the 80s and the 90s, you had crazy people, youths,
archaic,
who may be in the like 50, 60. Oh, anyway. But in terms of like a horror space, I never. Maybe it was a gothic thing I have from my mother's side of the family. I was never like. There was never. The subway tunnels were scary. You look when you used to be in the front car and look at the subway tunnels. I always imagined there were creatures in there. Of course, there's plenty of films that did that. There's that one film, Chud, where the commercial is like the woman's walking her dog by a manhole cover, and then the reptilian hand comes out, grabs her, and pulls her underneath to eat her. Right, and the little dog gets pulled in too. It's kind of funny. So always I always thought of that in the subway tunnels and the manhole covers. Of course, the manhole covers in real life, some people would get electrocuted walking on them, and sometimes there would be explosions where these things would go flying into the air like a flying, like a weapon, like a weapon of mass destruction. But yeah, I will tell you the two things that I have felt in terms of spaces, and then I'll let you go on on the ones you experienced. Being around an old house, okay, the old house that my oldest aunt and then moved to was like from like the 1800s. I did not like that house. Okay, I didn't like that house. I didn't like the feeling I got from that house. I didn't like it. Didn't want to go into the basement. It's one of those old basements where the floor was dirt. It wasn't even like did not like that. And I noticed that with certain old houses. There's one in a nearby city here, which is a crime-filled city, but has a lot of old, those old buildings from like the turn of the century with the towers, the Scooby-Doo houses, I call them, right? There's one in particular on Mineral Spring Road, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. There's a one house. It looks like a Cthulhu alien. This house. I have pictures of it. And there's just something, when I first saw the house, it was still covered up. No one was living there. There were trees covering it, and it looked creepy because it looked like it was hiding behind like vegetation. In recent years, that's been cut away. Someone could be living there, I don't know, but there's something ominous about that house. I feel evil emanating from that house. And that could just be my imagination, I don't know. So, but that's an example of old houses seem to evoke that with me. The other thing that evokes fear in me, and maybe it's because of Jaws, but is the ocean. I do not like the ocean. There was one time where or a couple of times where I ended up on the open ocean, like on a boat or something. I did not like that. I felt very uneasy not seeing, like looking at the horizon and seeing nothing but just, just endless water. And then the idea of the depths, what's in the water, the idea that there's something that could fucking bite you in half just underneath the surface, and that goes from the middle of the ocean to being like right by the shoreline, because obviously a lot of shark attacks happen there, but just in general, there's something about the ocean, and like a lake to a lesser degree, but still the same. The idea that there's something under the surface, that's my horror spaces. So now what's so what,
It's interesting. What you and I both had, I didn't understand it till I went to New York. You told me how Baltimore really creeped you out for a few years because it was kind of like this long, this big sprawl of like this low rise, just ghetto.
okay, I'll say, I don't mean to interrupt you. What creeps me out about Baltimore is that there's nobody on the fucking street. It's a city where, like, yeah, you'll see junkies, or you'll see people who are working on like in a work truck, but there's no one around. In the middle of the day, there's more people around here than there is in Baltimore, right? So that's what creeps me out a little bit. But I know that's because of the violent, what you mentioned, the missing links or something.
And the opposite really bothered me about New York. It was creepy being essentially in these wind tunnels.
Oh yeah.
Which is like, but so many people moving so fast, and I'm not even talking about the cars. It's pretty easy to cross the street because the traffic moves so slow. In Baltimore, you'll get run over and killed.
Right.
Okay.
Well, there's no space to build up speed.
Okay. But it's like you're an ant in a terrarium when you're in New York. That bothered me.
Okay.
And there wasn't even an option because everything was under construction in Manhattan. You're under the scaffolding.
Oh man, there's nothing but scaffolding everywhere.
And it's like single file.
Oh
so,
yeah.
Like in Baltimore, you will have relatively wide sidewalks anytime you're in a commercial area. So if you feel like you don't like what's walking up behind you, you can step off to the side.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't. So New York really bothered me in that way for, I guess, the opposite reason that what Baltimore bothered you. So the two places I'll name, two places that you've been in Baltimore where I had real creepy experiences. One is we trained in Adam Swinder's backyard a few times on the concrete pad right next to that alley.
Oh, that alley, yeah.
On the White Avenue. Okay, so 10 years before that, I had been across the street on White Avenue at Rob Mowry's place, watching a Tyson fight. It's when
oh God, it's a long time ago.
He fought a guy's name was Alex.
Okay.
Alex Stewart. He fought Alex Stewart. And I've got to go to work, and I'm going to work the night crew. And where that alley behind Adam's house goes east and west, I'm walking past the alley that goes north and south. There is a shortcut to the by right where I worked, and I walked past that alley and I could not see into it because it was a very dark night and the hood rats had shot out the street lights like along the alleys, and I was afraid. It really pissed me off.
Oh, well, yeah.
So I grabbed my case cutter and I put it in my hand and I made myself walk down that alley just to punish myself for being a pussy. Okay. Big Sam, who's the guy I worked with, after he stopped working on the night crew because he had a real bad drinking problem, he couldn't make it to work anymore. He was like the first black guy that lived in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And he was like a good deal older than me. He got beat to death.
Oh, yeah.
In that alley.
I remember you told me that, yeah.
Afterwards, it had nothing to do with that bit of fear that I felt or anything like that. But in retrospect, that still bugs me. I still have flashes in my mind of me looking down that dark alley and going down there, and then other flashes of Big Sam getting stopped out by whoever did that to him. Nobody was ever charged or anything. And the other one is a place that I know you've been, and I used it in the novel The Last White Man, where I set the whole thing in Hamilton in like a 6-block zone from Harford Road and Hamilton Avenue, where the novel starts, to where it ends, to Northern Parkway. And it is right at Brennan's, at that bar where we used to hang out.
Oh, yeah.
Last time I went in there,
Oh yeah.
2.5 years ago, they refused to serve me.
Yeah.
I
Well, the
was only
hoods
white dude in
took
there,
that
right.
bar over, bro.
Yeah. Well, right next to that bar, between that and the, I think it was a refrigeration company next door or something, they had a high security fence. There's a breezeway.
Yeah, the breezeway. I remember that.
So this is
Very narrow.
It's a concrete alley that's this wide.
Yeah, it's very narrow. Yeah.
Okay. And I would, at night, I'd have a few beers, and then I'd walk through there to go get Megan from the Harvest Fair, where she
Right,
worked.
that supermarket. Remember?
And every time I did that, I would think to myself, because there's usually somebody out there taking marks. Okay?
Yeah.
They're on the smartphone.
Yeah,
saying,
there's a guy leaving the bar.
Funny
yeah.
hat man.
Funny
checked
hat man. I
one-
remember that one,
I
yeah.
checked the one kid's phone one
Funny
time.
hat man.
You know, and
Yeah.
I told him, I said, tell your friends it's a bush hat.
It's a bush hat. Yeah, you're messing with the
Okay.
wrong funny hat man, dude.
But every time I walk down that alley at night, I think to myself, if there's somebody waiting for me, there's no out. And if they got a friend behind me, I mean, it's just going to be really
There is an
ugly.
out, but
And
through
then,
them.
And then that would piss me off at myself
Yeah, right,
for
right.
doubting myself.
Right.
And I put my hand on my knife. I was like, I hope there's somebody at the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
alley,
Oh,
so I can stop being
That's
a pussy
right.
and,
Oh,
be,
look at
and
that.
be worried about this. You know, so there was one time when I had to make a choice of going through there when there were 3 guys waiting for me at the church.
I remember
3
that
doors
story.
up the street.
Right.
Okay. And it was actually the day before I trained with Sean.
Okay.
But anyhow, those are just 2 examples of places that oftentimes would strike me with horror, even though I fancied myself kind of being like, you know, the Simon Gertie
Right.
of the ghetto. You know, I was
Simon
there
Gertie of the ghetto.
there was still these places that really terrified me.
Well, I'll ask you, out west, when you've gone up these mountains, all right, when you've walked up these mountains where people go missing and they don't know why they're missing, and we all know it's mountain lions.
Well, that's what Bob told me. He's like,
Right.
yeah, it's
Right. Now, you said you had,
cats,
you
right.
remember one following you or feeling it. Now, but did that feel you, I mean, was that a horror space out there, or do you feel more comfortable with that?
Okay, so the one time I was being followed, it turned out to be a small black bear that was following me.
Oh.
And I found that out because I was stealing his lunch.
Oh.
I was picking rose hips.
Oh, hell no.
And when you pick berries and stuff like that, you get into a trance. And you lose track of time. And a couple times out of my corner of my eye, I saw what I thought, because I sometimes get like these like dark shadows
Yeah.
in the corner of my eye just for no reason.
You seen the old ones.
That's what I thought it was. But when I turned back around after a few hours and went down that trail, this thing had been pooping in the trail.
Oh.
And I thought I saw something darting to the side every time I looked over my
Yeah.
shoulder. So
He wanted to fuck you up.
what I did is I kept, if it's a mountain lion and I'm picking, rose hips are really prolific in mountain slides. People go missing in mountain slides. And Bob said that's because it's cats. He said a cat can grab you on one of these rock slides.
Yeah.
They'll just go all the way down the mountain. It might go up a half a mile, and it's like from stones like this to boulders like this. It's leg break territory. He's like, he's going up and down those things, and it's taken him hours. He said a cat could do it in 30 seconds with you between its teeth.
They are no joke.
So
those cougars,
what
man.
I did is I always had a stick with me, and whatever the high side of the rock slide was, I'd put the stick on this side.
Look at
because
you.
he said they went right for your neck. So I figured I'm at least got a chance of it thinking, getting its jaws on the stick.
I wouldn't go out there without all my 3 guns.
But the
And
one
my man's got a
time
stick.
when I know I ran into one, was I was walking with the Major's two big dogs, okay, and I'm by myself, and I'm like 3.5 miles back in Washington State, and it's wintertime, and it's snowing, and the snow's just starting to come down on this day, and I'm a long way away from any type of help. I'm now over the mountain, back in Pages Flats, and I've listened to both of them, and there have been cougar attacks and people killed by these things up in Washington State in this area. And one of the reasons why they had these dogs was to protect their chickens from wildcats, coyotes, and the female cougar. He explained to me that the female cougar and her cubs, and he showed me her tracks and her droppings and everything, worked the front of the mountain. He said, but the tom cougar, who's like twice as big, will be back in the deeper areas where the bigger game is, okay? And they'll have like a 20-mile range. Well, the road is an old logging road, and it's cutting under a ridge. The ridge has got boulders like in the side of it, so it's like 20 feet high on my right. So that's where I have the stick. To my left, on the other side of the road, is this vast, dark cedar forest. And right there, it's against the law for me to go in there, and the Muckleshoot Indians own that.
Oh, no.
Okay,
oh,
so
the
he's like, do not go in there.
That's right.
So if the dogs go back there, I'm not chasing them to try to talk them to come back. I just got to let them go. And I come around the corner, and I see one paw print in the middle of the road in the fresh snow.
Ooh.
And this snow has just fallen, and there was no snow in this paw print.
Right.
So it just happened.
Yeah.
Right before I came around the corner with these dogs, something came off the top, 20 feet high, to about 10 or 15 feet to the middle of the road. One paw print in the middle, and then there's not another paw print in the road, and it's another 10 or 15 feet to the other side of the road where the cedar trees and the ferns are. I'm on the other side of the mountain, so I've now got service again. I can send a text to the Major. I put my boot next to this paw print, and I take a picture of it. And I say, what is this, and can I kick its ass? Because I did have a knife, and I did have a stick. And I sent it to him and Bob is like 5 states away. And the Major sends back, that's a 250-pound tom cougar by the footprint.
Right.
Okay? You got one claw, because he's referring to my knife. It's got 10.
It's got 10, yeah.
And he said, I want you to pay attention to house cats the next time you're in the Chosen's house and see what they can do.
Right. Oh, no.
And scale it up to this guy's as big as a linebacker.
All right, we'll just wrap this video up because it's getting long, but I'm just saying that.
So that's,
right.
So those things still terrify me every time I go out there.
And they should, because those are our enemy. Those are our oldest enemies as hominid. We are all the hominid family. We all brothers. Our nemesis were those predatory felines.
And that's a creepy space because with the sun shining during the day, those woods are still dark when you're in there.
That's right.
As soon as you get off the road and you get back in there, it's dusk. And when the sun goes down over the mountain, which might happen at 3:45, 3:30 in the afternoon in the winter, boom, lights out.
That's it. That's
it's
black metal country. Good. Very cool. Long video, but we discussed it. So October is welcome October. Thank